Well, as some of you already know, Roger was kind enough to introduce me. My name is Frank Parra. I work here in the San Gabriel Valley, Southern California. I've been in the business more than 20 years. I am celebrating my 11th year as a coach here at the Mike Ferry organization. And it's been an amazing 20 years. As I was sharing with Roger earlier today, 20 plus years ago when I was selling real estate and I got involved with the Mike Ferry organization, never at any point did I think that I would be able to do what I'm doing today. Uh, I feel like I'm able to help Roger and help some of you build your business, maybe make one small change today, and maybe that'll help you with some changes in the future. But again, I never thought I would be in the position that I'm in, but I enjoy it. I'm doing what I love, and I love helping you out. So again, welcome to today's event. Okay.
Thank you, Coach. I wanted to just kind of let you guys know, my name is Roger Zelaya. I'm the head of brokerage here at Radius Agent for the entire, and the broker of record for the entire state of California. Frank Parra, Coach Frank, as I call him, he was my personal coach, and he transformed my business because, like I said earlier, I was not a fan of making phone calls and scripting. And he helped me with call reluctance, mastering scripts, daily actions, consistent discipline, accountability. And, one of the things that Mike Ferry talks about, which Coach Frank will go into, is, why actors that get paid the most practice their scripts. So, Coach Frank, go ahead.
Okay. So again, welcome. As some of you may or may not already know, Mike Ferry is celebrating his 50th anniversary in the coaching industry. He started the industry back in 1975, and we're now celebrating his 50th year. So between the time that Roger first asked me to help you to speak and today, I've been picked by Mike and Sabrina to help with what we're calling the 50th Anniversary Freeway Tour 2025, all with the goal to help hopefully get you to join us in Vegas in July of this year at the Superstar Retreat. So I'll probably ask you again later on during the call, but obviously, we would love to have you join us to celebrate Mike's 50th anniversary at the Venetian in July. So again, thank you. What I want to talk about specifically today is shifting your mindset in a shifting market. I'm even going to say in a shifted market. Okay. What do I mean by that? We were wondering what was going to happen after the COVID times, after all the interest rates that people were enjoying. What happened there? We track and monitor, and I'm going to recommend this to you. You track and monitor the market statistics at least on a monthly basis. Write that down, at least on a monthly basis. What we do is the first Monday of every month, we take a half hour, if not one whole hour, and just focus on market statistics. Now, Roger, do you use InfoSparks on your MLS, right?
That's correct.
I know because I coach people throughout the region. Some of you may not even know where to find market statistics, okay? And again, because I go to Vegas and coach people from all over the country, when I bring up this topic, some of them are looking at me like, I don't even know where to go, okay? My recommendation, call your board. Unless you have and know where to get your market statistics, call your board, okay? Here's the 3 or 5 things I want you to pay attention to. Number 1, days on market. Average days on market. Number 2, new listings. New listings. Number 3, active listings. Active listings. Number 4, sales price. Sales price. And number 5, percentage above sales price. In other words, are the homes that are selling at or below the price that was originally put on the MLS. Okay? So it's being recorded, right, Roger? So they'll be able to go back and listen to it again.
Absolutely.
I just want to start with that. Market statistics are huge. But point number one that I want to talk about today is it's a very unusual market. And Mike says that it's the most unusual market we've ever seen. Because typically when rates go up, we see properties sit. But we're not. We're seeing properties coming to the market, and if they're priced accurately or even aggressively, they're selling, right? Say yes, okay? But these factors are high interest rates, high inflation, low inventory, and a division between that list, that list of property and those that list and those that don't, okay? So I get asked a lot, what do I see that's going to happen in the marketplace? My response to that, nothing. I believe, and I hope some of you will agree, that we're going to be in this market for a period of time. Because we don't anticipate rates going up dramatically or going down dramatically. So what we believe is going to happen is that we're going to stay in this market for a while. What's the point? Skills. We're going to get to that later. But again, study your market statistics at least once a month. And we're going to talk about time management. Put it in your schedule. Remember, write this down. If it's not in your schedule, it doesn't happen. If it's not in the schedule, it doesn't happen. I have a doctor's appointment. I got to take my car for servicing. I got to go to the dentist. Guess what? It all goes in my schedule. Why? Because it's got to happen. If it's not in the schedule, it doesn't happen. So far, so good?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Next point, Mike used to say that listings were the name of the game. Then he said that listings are how we stay in the game. Now he believes listings are the game. Listings are the game. Now, in most markets where we're at today, our biggest challenge is that the number of new listings is down. New listings is down. It's a whole other explanation as to why that's happening. But right now, we now have data. We study the market over the past in 2023, 2024, and now in the first quarter of 2025, listings are staying down. Now, you're going to talk to sellers who say, well, I want rates to go down. Well, we ask a clarifying question. Tell me what you think is going to happen when rates go down. Well, then there'll be more buyers. Okay, that's true. Where are you moving to? Are you moving to the same area? So we have to ask clarifying questions to determine what their plan or what their goals are. But you can have that conversation with people. You're going to get farther into the conversation because you know the market, because you're studying your market statistics. How many of you agree, and we'll let Roger do the thumbs up, and I see a couple of people posting that list to last listings is the name of the game. I'm 100% with you. How many agree with me that listings is the what Mike would say are the game today? Awesome. So then ask yourself, why are less than 5% of agents spending the majority of their time listing property?
If I may, Coach, I was a buyer's agent exclusively until you transform my business, right? Because one of the things I told you is I don't want to be running around on Saturday and Sunday showing property. And we focused on listings and transform my business completely.
Correct. Now, so why do you think, Roger, if you know, or anybody's willing or who spends the majority of their time working with buyers versus looking for sellers? Why do you think that is? I see somebody saying lack of prospecting. That's true. Okay. I wrote down, it's hard work.
It's a grind, coach.
It's a grind. And we're going to talk about, the characteristics or the things you need to do or some reasons why you won't make the calls. Now, keep in mind, guys and gals, when we talk about lead generation or prospecting, it doesn't always mean all you're going to do is call expireds. I had a coaching call yesterday with a guy who was spending every day of his prospecting day calling expireds. I said, wow, and you still live to tell about it, because that is a brutal place to be, just calling expireds all day. So what Mike is focusing on us with the coaching clients, write this down, be more versatile in your lead generation. Be more versatile in your lead generation. Because if all you're doing is calling expireds, so are 73 other people, and you're not going to get a fair chance. And I don't care how good or bad you are, you're not getting a fair shot because you're not the first call at 6 o'clock in the morning. Okay? So if you're not that first call at 6 in the morning, guess what? You're gone. You're done. I had a guy tell me one time, you're already a 14th call and it's 9 o'clock. Where you been? He was joking, right? But he was real. He was being honest. I was the 14th call and it was 9 o'clock. He'd already gotten 14 calls before me. Okay? But listing property is harder than finding buyers. The problem with buyers is there's just so many that you have to go through to achieve the goals that you've set. And you don't control your time, right, Roger?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't control your time. Next point I want to make is, Mike says is to succeed in real estate, you must spend more time strengthening your skills to deliver the confidence to become a strong listing agent. Mike says those skills are creating production-based schedule, building and getting leads out of your database, and other types of prospecting. Also, aggressive lead follow-up, strong pre-qualifying, and committing to a canned presentation. So I'll give you those again. The skills that we need to create are a production-based schedule, and we'll go into that in just a second. Building and getting leads out of your database, and we're going to go into that in just a second. Other sources of prospecting, not just calling expireds and for sale by owners. Being aggressive. Some of your personality styles prevent you from being aggressive. Guess what? If you're not being aggressive out there, you're done. So in coaching, we'll help you with that. Strong pre-qualifying. Strong pre-qualifying. We don't work with anybody unless they absolutely have to sell. And we're willing to walk away if they don't. And a strong listing presentation. A strong listing presentation. Roger mentioned earlier about actors and actresses getting paid more. Right, Roger?
That's right. The good ones.
We believe, and Mike has had this conversation with us. He says those actors, we'll call them, they have mastered their skill. And because they've mastered their skill, they're able to command more money. They get paid the most in Hollywood today. So the skills that we're talking about today, those are the skills you need to work on. I'm going to give you a couple of more. Handling objections. Asking better and asking more questions. Mike told us a couple of weeks ago or actually in January. He said, remind the coaching clients, if they're not practicing any of these skills, they're actually practicing on the job. You're actually practicing on the client when you should be practicing your skill. So one of my favorite stories that I told Roger earlier today, whether you like this man or not, I appreciate everything that he's done, is Kobe Bryant. So Kobe Bryant, if you guys know the history about Kobe Bryant, he was notorious for not passing the ball. That was one of the things people didn't like about him. He didn't pass the ball. So somebody on the team, I think it might have been Shaq, went to him and said, "Hey, Kobe, you're not passing the ball." His response was, "I know when you get here and I know when you leave. I'm already here when you get here and I'm still here when you leave." He said, "You're not ready. You're not getting the ball." So think about that for a second. If you're not ready, you shouldn't wonder why the seller isn't passing you the ball. Be prepared. Stop practicing on the client. The next area we're going to talk about are activities. Write that down, activities. Starting with creating a production-based schedule. Who in this chat today has had a real job before, where you had to show up at a certain time, leave at a certain time, you were responsible for certain activities or certain responsibilities? Great. So we know, for the most part, we know what it's like to have a real job. Question: if you were given that job and you didn't show up on time, didn't perform the activities that you were responsible for performing, didn't take breaks when you were supposed to, didn't take lunch when you were supposed to, and basically just kind of went through the day, just kind of let the day pass, how long would you last at that job? Probably not very long. So write this down. I must treat real estate like a real job. I must suit up, show up, do the tasks at hand. Somebody said I'd end up being a realtor. And honestly, I think that's what they did. And I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if you know this, Roger, but I spent my first 13 years in the Mike Ferry organization as a recruiter.
Oh.
Yeah, that's all I did for when I first learned the system. For 13 years, I just recruited for Century 21 in the top Remax office. So I cannot tell you how many times we had that statement that they said, well, I wanted to create my own schedule, or I wanted some more free time. Well, guess what? That's probably not realistic, especially in the environment that we're in today. So write down, if you desire to become a strong listing agent, you must spend 75% of your day on activities that cause you to find listings. I'll say that again. If you want to be a strong listing agent, you must spend 75% of your day on activities that cause you to get a listing. So take a moment without anybody answering. Take a moment right now and do a little bit of self-check on yourself. How much of your day right now are you spending on listing property versus everything else that you do? When people talk about the Mike Ferry organization, they fail to understand that we are teaching you to be a listing agent. That's what we do. We don't spend a lot of time working with buyers unless you're working with buyers, and we can coach you on that. But the key for our program is a listing agent. So if the answer to your question individually is less than 75%, let's take a look at what you're doing every day. Next, we're going to talk about time management. Write that down, time management. Mike believes there are 3 parts to a productive day. We break them down like this. The morning routine between 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. includes preparation, Role play, practice, prospecting, lead follow-up. I'll say that again. Includes preparing for your day. In other words, gathering your numbers. Who am I going to call? You know, am I dialing on the dialer? Am I dialing by hand? Who am I going to call today? Next, role play. Role play who you're going to call today. Are you calling your database? Good. Know what you're going to say. Are you calling notice of default? Know what you're going to say. Prospect for listings. Prospect for listings. Lead follow-up. Write this down, guys. I'm going to add this. 80% of your appointments are going to come during lead follow-up, not prospecting. You will generate leads during prospecting, but in most cases, you'll have to call them back. In most cases, you'll have to do a couple of follow-up calls. Yes, will there be situations where you set the appointment on the first call? Absolutely, but not nearly as many as you're going to set during lead follow-up. So what I like to tell people is you cannot be bad at lead follow-up because that's where the majority of your appointments are going to come. Remember, your morning routine, write this down, is money time. Generate your leads in the morning. So I wrote down here, sometimes people ask me, why does Mike have us prospect in the morning? It's simple. He says, do the hardest thing first. Do the hardest thing first. He believes, and I totally agree with him, that the farther you get into your day, the less likely you are to do any lead generation whatsoever. Just get it out of the way. I had a guy, a coaching client asked me yesterday, he said, when is the best time to prospect? Morning, midday, or in the afternoon? My answer was yes. He says, no, when is the best time? I said, yes. He's like, oh, I get it. I said, just do it. But the ideal time, your energy is higher, you're more enthusiastic, you just finished role playing, you're ready for the day, and go for it. Get it out of the way. Whether it's 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours, just get it done. If you don't do it in the morning, the likelihood of you doing it goes down very quick. Next, write down the middle of the day. This is between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m., the middle of the day. Use this time for returning calls, following up on emails, all of your administration work, returning phone calls, negotiating deals, maybe calling the agents that you're going to show property to this weekend, maybe following up with your clients, your current sellers. We recommend you call them on a weekly basis. Preparing for your appointments, things like that between 12 p.m. and 3 p.m. Any questions so far, Roger? I don't see anything popping up.
Nope, I don't see any questions, but that's one thing I struggled with was I had to report to you how many times did I prospect in, for how long, and if I didn't feel like it, I'm like, I'm gonna have to tell coach that I did not prospect on Thursday, and he's gonna ask me why not. So I better have a good reason. So, but yeah. No.
Because again, if you remember, Roger, we have a business plan. We'll spend more time talking about the business plan and how much time you think you have to achieve the goal you set and how much time you really have to achieve the goal you set. And you'll be surprised at how little time you really have. All right. The last one, write down the afternoon. The afternoon. The afternoon is for listing and buyer appointments. Previewing property, we'll talk more about that in a second. And if there is no appointment, continue to prospect. Because remember, you're treating real estate like a real job. So between 3 o'clock and 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock and 7 o'clock, whatever your schedule says you're going to be in the office, be productive. Remember, whatever we talk about with regard to Roger prospecting today, if he says, I'm committed to prospecting from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., does that mean you can't prospect anymore, Roger?
No.
No, that means if you don't have anything to do, if you don't have an appointment, jump back on the phones because you have an obligation and a commitment to be in the office until 6 o'clock. Do your job because there's nothing wrong with doing more. Mike calls the 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock time showtime. So you have money time, you have doing business time, and then you have showtime. Now, for some people, this may seem kind of simple, like, well, that's not hard to do. Well, it's not. But I always try to remind people that real estate is a simple business. It's just not easy. It's just not easy. The next note I think we talked about already was treating real estate as if it was a real job. How many of you remember the liability or responsibility that you had? And again, if you didn't do it, what would happen? The problem with real estate, or let me rephrase that. Mike says one of the best things about real estate, independent contractors. What's the worst thing about real estate? Independent contractors. So what seems to be such a huge benefit is actually a detriment in some cases. Write down your schedule is a working document. Your schedule is a working document. I wrote down here, be flexible, but not too rigid. Imagine your clients are looking over your shoulder and watching you work. What would they think? Write down, master your mornings. For some of the coaching clients, I have to get them just to master the morning. I tell them, write the whole schedule out, but just master your mornings for today. And let's see what happens with the rest of the day. And in most cases, you're going to keep going because your momentum is going to take you into the rest of the day. But again, do the hardest thing first, and the rest of the day is simple. Write down, keep track of your time hour by hour. Keep track of your time. What that does is it helps you to understand that time is going to pass anyway. The question is, what am I going to do with mine? By tracking your time on an hour-by-hour basis, you will identify both strengths and weaknesses in your day. And I wrote down here, send a copy to me and let me look at it. What we're going to determine is how efficient and effective you're really being. How efficient or how effective am I really being? I wrote down a quote from a coach that told me this a long time ago. This point right here, write down, inspect what I expect. Inspect what I expect. That's what this point does. It inspects what I expect. Well, why don't I have more business? Well, let's see what you do all day. And then we can inspect what you expect. You expect more listings, but you're not putting in the work. So if you really want to inspect what you expect, track your time hour by hour. Show it to Roger. Send it to me. Let's look at it together. Next point I wrote down said, follow your schedule by developing the habit of following it. I made a note here. It says, what are some habits? What is habit? Habit is something you do without even thinking about it. Right, Roger?
That's correct.
You wake up, you take a shower, you comb your hair, you do what you do. You do those things without even thinking about them. Ever seen a 5-year-old try to tie his or her own shoes? Pretty intensely focused, right, guys? Say yes. But after a while, after they do it over and over and over again, guess what? They tie their shoe and boom, they're out the door because they do it over and over and over again. So if at first, when you try to follow your schedule and it doesn't feel like it's working, keep going because you haven't created the habit. So Mike said, what would you consider the strongest habit you have in your life and business, and how did you develop that habit? In most cases, it's because you did it over and over and over again. Next point, it says here, since we can't let anything interrupt or delay a qualified listing appointment, keep in mind that your schedule is as important as the listing appointment. I'll say that again. Since we don't let anything get in the way of a bona fide qualified listing appointment, we have to treat our schedule the same way. So I'll kind of summarize that. Roger, you get a come list me call. They said, we're selling, we're moving to Oklahoma, we're done, come list the house. Okay? Does that sound like, a past client who says, we're selling, we're done, right?
Thank you. Absolutely.
You do your pre-qualifying, they say, yes, we'll price it there, we'll do this. Roger, honestly, what could get in the way of you not showing up on Thursday at 5 o'clock? It's a multi-million-dollar.
Not a whole lot of things.
They're moving over. They're done. What could get in the way?
Nothing really. Maybe like an
sort
accident.
of an emergency at home.
Yeah.
Or sort of an emergency with yourself. You're going to that appointment.
Heck yeah.
You're going to be there. That's what Mike is trying to say. You see, what happens is we don't give prospecting or lead generation the same respect that we give that listing appointment. See, very little or almost nothing will get in the way of Roger attending that appointment. When we start to give prospecting or lead generation that same level of respect, our business will change. It says here, since the high quality prospecting is done in the morning, don't let anything interrupt that period of time. Do you ever just blow off a listing appointment? No. So why are we so quick to blow off prospecting? Think about that. Write down the word discipline. Discipline. Mike says that if you work hard to eliminate the biggest distractions that you have that pull you off schedule, tell your coach what they are. I cannot tell you how many times I get a coaching client in my schedule and we ask them, and you remember Roger, give me some wins this week. Well, okay, well, what got in the way? Well, I was gonna do it, So I write this down. There are two types of distractions: life and those that we allow. Roger, what's a life distraction? We kind of touched on that.
I had to take my kid to the doctor.
Yeah, kids get sick. Parents get sick. I have a coaching client in Vegas. His mom has dementia. So that's in his business plan. We understand that that's going to happen because mom needs to go to the doctor. She needs help. That happens. That's life, right? That's going to happen. You have a flat tire, dead batteries, kids need work, blah, blah, blah. That's life. Nothing we can do about it. It's the ones that we allow that we have to control. And we have to determine, should I be allowing this distraction or not? Roger, I don't know if you remember, but behind me, it's a big glass wall. And while I'm coaching, somebody can come and try to bother me. But I am coaching. Don't bother me. So I look over there and I look right back. What does that tell them, Roger?
Don't bug me.
Don't bother me.
Don't have the
Now,
time.
if I do this, or if I say this, or if I go like this, I just allowed that distraction. There's life in those that you allow. Control the ones that you're allowing. Next, write down accountability. Mike told us a long time ago, everybody wants accountability until when? Until they get it. And then they don't want it anymore. All right? But your willingness to be accountable is crucial. So Mike says, take your schedule, give a copy of it to your coach, give a copy of it to your broker, give a copy of it to your manager. You may even want to give a copy of it to your spouse. Or I wrote down somebody you trust and respect. The more people that hold you accountable, especially at the beginning, the better off you are. So which is harder, creating the schedule or sticking to the schedule?
Sticking to it.
Sticking to it. Because writing it is only 50% of the job. Anybody can write a schedule. We could all hang up right now and you could base it on what I just said and say, here's my schedule. And guess what? You've done 50% of the job. I wrote down next, Mike Ferry suggested and reminds us all the time about our database. He says, contact everybody you know 4 times a year. By phone, by the way. He also says he says mail everyone something 4 times a year. Now, I guarantee you, because I've been coaching enough time, some of you are saying to yourself, no problem, I can do that. But there's also a group of you who are going, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. So a quick story, I was hosting Prospecting Clinic, and it's something that you may consider if you're interested in getting more information on the Mike Ferry system. Prospecting Clinic, we all fly in from wherever you're at in the country. You fly in, Mike has a facility off the strip. There's about 60 standing stations, and people fly in, and all they do for 2 days, prospect. So I had a coaching client, she's actually from the Bay Area. She had just came into my schedule and she wasn't setting appointments. She wasn't hitting her contact goal. She basically wasn't doing what I wanted her to do. I said, hold on, let's do this. Fly to Vegas. I'll meet you there on that. It was the 10th and 11th of March. We fly into town. She gets ready. She has all her numbers. She starts calling. And I want you guys to know, what I'm about to say, I don't exaggerate. I don't lie. That's just not how I operate. But she set 6 appointments the first day. 6 appointments. So I asked her, why? What's different? She looked at me and she says, the environment. And plus you and the other coach are right here on my butt, listening. See, the nice thing about this event is the way it's set up is that if you're on a call, I have a headset, I can splice into your call. And I get to hear both sides. And I can tell you what to say, what to ask, close for the appointment, and so on and so forth. You see, guys and gals, that accountability right there, just her being in that environment for 2 days, she ended up with 8 appointments in 2 days. And I don't make stuff up like that. But that's what she was able to do. Even she was amazed. Now, here's what's interesting. The reason I bring that up is because day 2, all we did was focus on additional types of lead generation for her. Her biggest issue was calling her database. And I said, good. you're going to call 10 right now. She says, what? Yeah, 10 right now. Where do I start? I grabbed her phone. I went to her. I said, open it up. I said, go to your contacts, press A. And she pressed A. Find somebody to call that starts with the letter A. Okay. And she started calling. I said, but who are you going to call? I know. What are you going to say? You could talk about a new listing. You could talk about a sold listing. You could talk about a new investment opportunity that your company has listed or you have listed. Talk about interest rate. Talk about market statistics because now you know them. She jumped on those calls. And like I said, on day 2, she set 2 more appointments. She was cringing at calling her database. But we have to call our database. I wrote down here, if you're not, somebody else will. If you're not, somebody else will. So get over it. I wrote down, and just do it. Get over it and just do it. Mike also, next point, write down, treat your past clients with respect. Treat them with respect. They deserve it. They are your business. They are your gold mine. And again, if you don't, somebody else will. Next point, write down, if I'm not going to call them, delete them. Delete them. They're in the way. If you look at the name and number and go, I don't want to call them, delete it. If you're not going to call them, delete it. He says, don't struggle with talking to people that you don't want to talk to. It's okay. Next, I want you to write down prospecting for listings. Prospecting for listings. Mike says that there are only 3 ways to get business. Number 1, you can wait for it. And I wrote down, eventually, somebody will buy something from you, or somebody may call you. Number 2, you can buy it. Question is, can you afford it? Number 3, I'm sorry, you can go out and look for it every day. So so Roger, you're going to laugh when I say this, but sometimes when I talk to people, they always say Mike is old, he's outdated, right? And yes, he's over 80 years old. And yes, he's a baby boomer and all that good stuff. But he tracks and monitors all of this market. And write this down for me. He wrote a report. It's called 60 Ways to Get a Listing. Write that down. If you get a chance, go on the website and download it. 60 ways to find a listing. So if you're wondering, not sure, what am I going to do? How can I do it? How can I find listings today? Go look at Mike's report. Guess what's in there? Social media. Guess what's in there? Zillow. They're in there. Mike is smart enough to know that it is actually a source. It's not the ones he recommends, but it is a source of getting business. We don't deny that. There's people in the program who that's where they get most of their business. So Roger, why do you think these people stay in the Mike Ferry system even though they're following Zillow? What do you think?
It's the consistency and consistency and accountability of coaching.
Yeah. So I'll follow up on that. We had a meeting when we do these events. I don't know if you know this, Roger, but at the events that we go to in Vegas and in Palm Desert last year, we have one whole day of just coaches meetings, and all we do is sit with Mike and Sabrina, and they coach us. Now, usually at the Superstar retreat, we meet at the end. So at the end of one retreat, we kind of, as coaches, we kind of got together and said, hey, Mike, you have that guy up there, but he's getting all his business from Zillow. And Mike said, Okay, so what's the problem? Well, we're telling them get into coaching, and you're promoting kind of. He goes, did I tell them they should use Zillow? He said no. He said, well, let me ask you this. If you get a call from Zillow to list or buy property, do you have to handle objections?
Yes,
Do you have to do a presentation?
absolutely.
Do you have to know how to price property?
Yes,
Do you have to pre-qualify?
absolutely.
So in essence, nothing changes.
Yeah. Coach, just want to let you know, 10-minute warning.
Got it. You got it. Thank you. So again, even though the technology is there, we still have to do the basic things. And Mike believes none of that's going to change. I'll kind of move forward a little bit for you, Roger.
Yeah, just don't know if we want to do Q&A.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. Okay. So in closing, write this down. If I want to become a better prospector, I need to create a strong link between prospecting and the goals that I've set. I'll say that again. If I want to be a better prospector, I need to create a stronger link between the prospecting and the goals that I have. To have stronger goals, consider making a list of 10 places you want to go, 10 things you want to do, and 10 things you want to have. And if you truly want to go to those places, do those things, or have those things, you'll do what you need to do on a daily basis. Okay. So thank you again for allowing me to just present a small portion of what we do here at the Mike Ferry organization. And what was that question? I missed it. You want to? Yeah, I'm open now for Q&A. If somebody has some questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah. So the question that Emily put on here, what about robocalls? I don't pick up numbers I don't know anymore. Most people I know do the same. That was my objection for Mike Ferry.
Got it. So I'm not sure what the question is, though. Yes, that's a true statement. Yes, that is a part of our industry today. But if you think about what we're doing, and if you get involved with a company like Vulcan 7, there's ways to I think they call it I can't think of the name of it, but there's ways to block your number to change it to a business account so that it doesn't get scammed. Or that's usually, we don't usually get accused of being robocallers. We usually get accused of being
you whitelist your number.
Yeah,
and I do have the instructions on how to do that, because I had to whitelist every single number that I was using when I was being coached by Frank.
Got it. Yep. And there's nothing we can do about that. The DNC list is also an issue in our industry today. It is what it is. Between my team and I, we have over 1 million numbers in our systems right now. There's plenty of numbers to call. Just keep going. Don't let that get in the way. Just keep going.
Yeah. Do we have any questions? If you do have a question, you can either just unmute yourself and ask away. Go. I hear somebody that unmuted themselves, I think. If you have any questions. Okay, well, there it doesn't look like everybody's shy.
I have a quick question, Roger.
Go ahead, Athene.
For Frank. Thank
Hi.
you. This has been really informative and inspiring. So thank you so much. I have a question regarding sellers who want to list their property for more than what my perhaps suggested list price would be. It's about $100,000 more than what the last comp was about 5 months ago. So I'm just curious. I'm not going to compromise not getting the listing, but I'm just wondering if there's a script around the language around, listing it at a more ideal price point.
What we do in those situations, Athene, is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, thank you.
So the way that we work on that with our coaching clients is we write this down. Ask clarifying questions.
Mm-hmm.
A clarifying question would be, how did you arrive at that number?
Okay. Ooh,
Okay.
that feels so bold.
What's that?
It feels very bold to ask a question like that.
Well, don't, because you're a professional. Do you
Mhm.
think the lawyers are not going to ask you how come you were drinking that day? Are they not going to be willing to ask the tough questions?
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
are, right? How do we end up here? Why are you in bankruptcy? What happened, right?
Right.
You got to be willing to ask those tough questions. And it's not what you say, it's how you say it. So Athene, how did you come up with 100? How did you come up with, because I'm recommending 800. You were, I want 900. Well, how did you come up with that number? It's a
Well,
clarifying question.
yeah.
That's the first one.
My kitchen's more updated. Did you see my kitchen? My kitchen is
Yeah,
so much
and
better.
it looks great. But in essence, don't all houses at some point need a new kitchen?
Yes,
Don't
but
houses at some point,
sold for 2,050,000, then I think we can get 2,150,000 for mine.
I think, are you familiar with how a appraiser will arrive at a fair market value for your home versus any others?
I mean, they'll look at the most recent sales, I would
Right.
assume within the last couple of months.
Exactly. They're going to do exactly what I've done today. See, the good news about working with us is we work very closely with our appraiser friends. So we're constantly looking at what they're doing differently or what they're doing better. And we already know what we can do to get more for your home versus all the others. So what we've done is basically what an appraiser has done.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
my concern is that if you price it $100,000 more than the others, all you're going to do is help the other ones sell theirs. That's not what you're trying to do, is it?
Right. Right.
Turn it around.
Besides, didn't you say you were moving to the next property because you were starting a new job?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to take the money out of this and use it to rebuild my home that burned down in the fires for the
Gotcha. Well, I can
construction.
appreciate that. And I want you to know I'm getting some questions over here while I'm doing this, so I apologize if I sound a little bit distracted. But listen, in the end, I just want you to know that I have every reason to list it at the higher price if I can. Can I explain?
Sure.
If I list it at 900,000 and I'm able to get it sold, I make more money, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
So I have every reason to do that. But how much do I make if I don't sell it?
Right.
Exactly. Right. And what's going to happen? Because you said that job starts on May 1st. What's going to happen on May 1st if you're still here? How would you feel? That's why I'm recommending this price won't get you there. This price.
Mm-hmm.
Is that fair?
Okay. Yes.
All we need to do is sign the contract so I can get started right away. Sign the contract.
If I may interrupt,
Go ahead.
Athene, I agree with you that that was a bold question. You know, how did you arrive to $100,000 more than me? And I was against those kind of questions before I met Frank. But it's not what you say is how you say it. Now, Coach, I know you and I spoke before we got on the call, and can you share with us, because you are an active real estate agent slash realtor today, about your last experience that you walked away from a listing?
Yeah, every listing that we go on, or I go on, whether it's me or somebody on my team, I walk in to every listing, what's the maximum price I'll go, and what's the lowest commission I'm willing to accept. And I don't budge. If the highest price I'll go is 700,000, with the one we did last Saturday, then I won't go above that. And I don't even recommend that in this predicament because the house needs so much work. Okay. What I thought was going to happen that day was they were going to hit me on the commission. So I was prepared and I had my response ready to go. What's interesting though, is that we had already known that the brother, one of the family members, had a friend in the business. Got it? And the friend of the business was willing to do it for 2%. We aren't. The least that we were going to do if they kept it in the family was 2.5, and we were done. But that was the least. But they didn't even give me the objection. I looked them in the face when they asked me, what do we charge? And we said, our fee is 3%. and we're going to ask you to pay the other side a fair commission and why, should you choose to pay the other side. And we had already gone over the NAR ruling. So at the end of the day, they didn't sign. We find out later, the friend in the business did it for 1%. Just totally cut us out. But again, because I wasn't going to go over a certain price and I wasn't going to go below a certain commission, I'm okay with losing that deal because I have standards. Okay, does that make sense? That's what we were talking about earlier, right, Roger? We have to have
Absolutely.
those standards. I was ready to say, handle the objection. We all have regular jobs. We all have a certain standard that we won't work for less than. So do I. I won't go below this. And that was what I was going to say. But they never gave me the objection, only because they went to the person who was willing to do it for less. And that's fine if they get it done. So Athena, I hope that answered your question. It's ask clarifying questions so you kind of understand. What I learned also is, Roger, what do they usually say, or Athena, what do they usually say when I ask them that question about how did you come up with that price? What do they usually say?
I mean, I don't know. I mean,
the house down the street.
yeah.
Got it. Do you have the address of that property? I'd like to look it up. Oh, okay. Well, that one was 3,300 square feet. That one had a pool and a spa. Yeah. You're only 2,200 square feet. And remember, we know the guidelines that appraisers use. That wouldn't be a comparable for your home. But guess what? I just clarified by asking a clarifying question how they came up with that number without arguing with them.
Exactly. I think so much is conveyed in the tone and being, asking from a place of curiosity, genuine curiosity of like, hey, let's, in the spirit of collaboration, we want to arrive at the best strategy to sell your condo. And in this situation, because there's, it's a like for like situation, the most recent comp in November that closed November of 24 was this exact same footprint. I mean, theirs is unit 5, the other one was unit 4, just across the way from them. So, and what was interesting with that sale, just to give you a little bit of background, is that it had been on the market for over 30 days and they didn't have open houses because it was tenant occupied. And then when it closed at the asking price, which I thought was so odd because they did not have open houses. I'd been keeping an eye on this complex because I knew that I was going to have a listing coming up within the next 6 months. So I was diligently checking things out. And then I was like, why did it close at full price? And then I looked at the seller. It was an LLC. Then I dug further, saw that it was an Asian company, like Asian LLC. So it was almost like it was a foreign entity that needed to park their money in the U. Because I was like, it's almost like somebody just said, oh yeah, this is what we're looking for. Well, let's just make an offer. Because I'm like, why would they offer full price for something that's been sitting there for over a month? No open houses, no broker opens, no exposure, essentially. It was like they just found something that fit the mold of what they needed for their portfolio. And I did share that information with the seller because I said, because I was actually surprised when it closed at the asking price. I really was. And
what's the average days on market for that neighborhood or for that area? Because 30 days is not a long time.
It was, first of all, it was like winter time, right? So it was end of November. So it was like kind of like that time of the year when things tend to slow down. This is in Santa Monica. So, I mean, it's a prime pocket of Santa Monica. But
when it's sold for the price that it sold for, did that help or hurt the market?
Oh, I think it definitely helped the market because I thought the price that they were asking was aggressive.
Exactly. So exactly. And don't be afraid to ask these clarifying questions. Although Mike teaches us and as a coach, and I'm sure I've done it to Roger, because we do it all the time. What stopped you? We have to be willing to ask those tough questions because I have to know if there's something here or not, because you're going to spend time, effort, energy, and most importantly, money. Time you're not going to get it back. The money, you're not going to get it back. All the energy, you have to know, you have to have a standard to say, I will not go above this price. That's why I was telling you earlier, I will not go above a certain price.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have Kevin. Do you have a question, Kevin
Yeah,
Garcia?
I saw that. Thank you, Atin.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you, Frank.
yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yep.
sir.
Awesome. Yeah, I just had a quick question, Frank. I know you mentioned earlier something that really stuck out to me is when you mentioned, if you're not going to call them, go ahead and delete them from your pipeline. I do just want to go talk about. I think a lot of agents do struggle with getting caught up in busy work where you fill up your pipeline with a lot of leads, and then you just don't know when these leads are going to do anything, and you don't want to delete them because you never know, right? My big thing is just trying to, I guess, get advice on how to filter down your pipeline so you don't get it too, filled up with just leads that are not serious or looking to do anything.
Excellent question.
Great question. It's a great question, and for a variety of reasons. At the most recent event in January, Mike would say this to you: what is the threshold? What does somebody have to say or do? And I'll pose this to Kevin first, and you guys can all think about it. What do you have to hear from somebody to consider them a lead? And you can answer the question if you want. If not, it's just think about it for a second. What does somebody say to you that makes you think they're a lead? Number one. Number two, set the standard higher. Okay? Right now, we believe that the only people who are going to sell are those that have to sell. Kevin, give me an example of somebody who has to sell.
I actually just got a new job offer in another city, so I'm relocating over there.
Not a have to sell. I need more information before I consider them a have to sell. So Kevin, you said you were moving to the new job over in Oklahoma, you said?
Yes.
Now, question for you. Is this something you've been working towards for a long time, or did it just kind of suddenly come up?
It's actually just something that just came up that crossed my mind, so I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, see, I already determined you don't have to move.
Got it.
Now I'm going to make a decision if I'm going to keep you as a lead. I might keep you as a future, but I'm going to keep asking you more questions. Got it? If this move is a promotion, will you be making more money? How does your wife feel about the move? I'm going to ask you a bunch of clarifying questions because I know what you gave me is, we call that surface motivation. It's not enough. So if Kevin is accepting that and you're accepting that automatically, just because I said they're moving, because that's what the list of people that are in your business that you're allowing to be a lead, it's not enough. Just ask more questions.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Let's do it's 11:07. We've definitely went past, so I appreciate your time, Coach. Let's go to 11:10. And do we have one more question, and then we will be done? And by the way, on the chat, we do have some information about the 60 ways to find a listing. It's on the chat. Click on it. We also have the Mike Ferry 50th anniversary information. Click on that. It will be included with this recording when we email it to you. And then we have time for one more question. Anybody?
Yes, hi, this is Diana. Okay, so I've been in prospecting. I have two leads that need to sell, but one particular keeps saying that it's further down. They don't know when. I can't get an appointment to just do a market analysis to let them know if they want to do things to their house to plan for it, or do they want to sell it the way it is?
We just lost Coach Frank.
Oh.
So let's give him 1 minute to come back if he comes back. But what I would say, I think, did he come back? Not yet. You need to ask more questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You need to pre-qualify them. And Mike Ferry has a pre-qualification script free on his website. And those are the questions that Frank was asking. Like, okay, did it, then maybe they just don't need to sell.
Yeah, they don't need to sell, but they will need to sell when they move. So I know all their plans. It's not exactly, they want to wait till the last minute when they need to sell. And I'm like, I would like you to be a little bit more prepared to sell.
Yeah, but you got to ask more questions. You know, do they need to sell? When do they need to sell? And they're not really ready to sell. They haven't made the decision to sell. I wish I was a Mike Ferry coach, but I wouldn't be able to coach you on that. But Frank was calling me, and let's see. I don't know what happened. Let me see. Yes, sir.
I lost the connection. Not sure what happened.
Yeah, we're still on, and we did have that one question from Diana, and so you can log back in. I don't know if it will allow you.
Let me try. I'll call you right back.
Okay, right. If it doesn't come back in 1 minute, we're just gonna have to cut it off because I have another meeting that I'm late to. But Diana, I think you know, certainly you can reach out to Frank. Let me see if I have his contact info, which I'm sure I do. Frank Parra broker at gmail.com.
Okay.
So let me see if I can copy that, and you can email him directly. Yeah, it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get back on, but I don't know what happened. Anyway, so I'm going to stop the recording. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Stop recording.